Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit more about University of Minnesota Law School. This is a short overview of what I'll be covering today, and we'll go more into the agenda later. But I just wanted to say I'm so happy that you all could be here, and hopefully we can give you a little taste of what it's like at the University of Minnesota. My name is Molly Wagner. I am a 2L, originally from Southern Maryland. I went to undergrad in the DC area and I worked for 5 years before coming to law school. Currently in law school, I'm involved in law review. I'm currently a staffer and next year I will be lead managing editor. I'm also co-president of Outlaw, which is the LGBTQIA affinity org. And I am in the tax clinic. My legal interests are tax law, as well as ERISA and retirement and healthcare law, which is not what I thought I was going to be doing when I first entered law school, but I think it's a testament to being open to new things and how Minnesota can really help you on a path to discovery. And I think that that really leads really nicely into why I chose Minnesota law. So when I was looking at schools and weighing my different options, one of the things that really attracted me to Minnesota was that they had a really great combination of traditional lecture-based classes and more experiential learning. I was really drawn to their legal writing program, which is a year-long program that spans both the fall and spring semester of your 1L year. You're broken into small groups of about 8 students, and you have a practitioner teacher who is a working lawyer who comes in and teaches real legal writing skills that are used in firms or in government work, using their expertise there to help you really learn the real skills of lawyering. And you also are supported by a 2 or 3L student aid. And I just found that individualized attention really helpful in developing my legal writing skills. I was also very attracted to a program that we have called Law in Practice, which is a course you take your spring 1L year. And it's a 100% simulation-based course where you have the opportunity to learn and experience some of the typical everyday things that lawyers do, such as client interviews, depositions, mediations. We even go down to Hennepin County Courthouse and you have a simulated chambers conference with a real judge. So it's really giving you the exposure and confidence that you can take into your 1L summer job, into your 2L summer job, and after you graduate. And that was something I really appreciated. As I said earlier, I'm also involved in the tax clinic. Minnesota has over 26 different clinics, and they range from everything in terms of litigation-based to transactional. So there's something for every legal interest if you would like to have that type of experience. I really enjoy working at the tax clinic because it's a great way to reach out to the community and do direct type of service, but still kind of gain and refine those legal skills that I'll be using later. One of the biggest things, though, that really attracted me to Minnesota was the community. And I think you'll hear just about everyone echo that, and other admitted students say this as well. I really felt that Minnesota had a collaborative and cooperative community, both when I visited, and that has been proven true to me over and over again throughout my experience in 1 and 2L year. There's always, my classmates are always willing to share notes, share outlines, and the professors as well are extremely invested in your success, not only in class, but with your legal career. I've dropped by many professors' office hours to talk not only about maybe the subject that we're covering in class that day, but also what kind of internships I should look for, how I should style my resume, and what kind of fields, if I'm interested in a certain type of law, what type of fields should I be looking at for a career? And I've really enjoyed that kind of support and community, both while I was in person my 1L year, and that is extended while I've been virtual in my 2L year. And I really feel that the community of Minnesota has been a defining part of my law school experience, both with the clubs that I'm involved in Outlaw, with my section mates, my 1L year, and the professors that I have sought mentorship from during my time. And I'm happy to speak more about why I chose Minnesota law. As we move through today's program, you'll also have the opportunity to speak directly to professors and other current students who would be happy to share more about their path to Minnesota law and what they are currently experiencing as students. So this is an overview of our agenda for today. We will be moving into the special topics panel soon, which I'm very excited will be with our Dean Jenkins, and you will be able to ask questions, and he can also tell you more about his view of the school and his mission for the law school. Then we will move into having breakout rooms, as I mentioned, and with professors as well as current students. And these are meant to be a little bit more informal and have the opportunity for you to just unmute and ask questions and get to know the school a little bit more. We'll have 2 20-minute sessions of breakout rooms where you can switch between breakout rooms at the 20-minute mark. So you'll have the opportunity to gain some various perspectives. After that, we will come back for a closing and a final Q&A. Then we'll have a short break. And if folks are interested in joining a class observation, there will be a live class observation for Professor Erbsen's Civ Pro 2 class. And Sarani, who is the other co-head ambassador, will lead a debrief of that. She's not only an ambassador, but also a student in that class. So we can come back and we will have a debrief with her in the main room at 2:55 p.m. So we are going to start moving into the special topics panel, which will be with the dean. So I will stop sharing my screen. And it is wonderful to see all of you here. So thank you so much for being here. I think we may still be waiting for Dean Jenkins to join us. And so in that case, we also have members of the admissions team here who you may have corresponded with already. And if folks from the admissions team would like to introduce themselves as well, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Engley, the Director of Admissions at the law school, and you've probably all received an admission letter from me. At least I hope you have, or you shouldn't be here. And I'm sure you corresponded via email with me, or we've talked on the phone. And it's great to see you all here. So welcome.
I can go next. Hi, I'm Kate Snowden. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions. I recognize a lot of your names too. So we're so excited that you're all here. And I know you're going to get a lot of information today. And we look forward to seeing you, a lot of you, in the fall.
Hi, I'm Maddie Mersel. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an admissions counselor. So I also recognize quite a few of you. It's great to see you all. I also want to just invite you to share your video. It's really great to see faces. If you're comfortable with that, we would love to be able to see you while we talk to you. I'm sure the dean would also love to be able to see you while he talks to you. So I did just want to invite you all to do that if you're comfortable with that. Yeah, welcome. Happy to be here.
And hi, everyone. My name is Maddie Rudkin. I'm the admissions coordinator for the office. And yeah, so stoked to be here with all of you and really excited about this awesome event.
Great. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. I know that after the Dean's panel, we'll be having breakout rooms with professors. And I actually see that Professor Matheson is here. So Professor Matheson, would you like to just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the admitted students a little bit about your practice area?
Hi, I'm John Matheson. Happy to see you all. Looking forward to seeing you hopefully in person in the fall. We'll see how that works out. We're looking forward to it though. I teach first year contracts. So that's be something you'd have in the fall. Hope you are in that class. We have a lot of fun. And then I teach some of the upper level business courses. The introductory business organizations course, an advanced corporate law course, comparative corporate governance, that looks at different countries and their various structures of organization. So in the business law area, but I help students in all areas with various things they need to accomplish. So happy to be part of this program. I'll see you if you want to in one of the breakout rooms later on.
Yes, thank you. And that's it brings up a great point about business concentration, which is one of the several concentrations that we have at the law school. Concentrations are not required, but they are kind of a great roadmap for courses to take if you are interested in a particular area. Some folks end up completing concentrations, others don't. For instance, I look very closely at the labor and employment law concentration. However, I most likely will not receive that concentration, but I use it as a way to figure out what courses would be helpful to take since I'm interested in that area. And I actually see that Dean Jenkins has joined us. How are you?
Hi, I'm here. I'm not sure. I have a different name that I don't know how this happened on Zoom, but I am here.
We are very happy to have you here. So as I mentioned, it's very exciting. We have Dean Jenkins joining us. He's also the William S. Pette Professor of Law. And you can feel free to put questions in the Q&A for the Dean, and he'd be more than happy to respond to them. But I know, Dean Jenkins, you have a very rich experience that you could maybe share a little bit more with us about and talk about your view and mission for the law school.
Sure, great. Well, hello everyone. I'm thrilled to be here, and more importantly, I'm thrilled that you all are here. It's great to see you. So first thing I want to do is just say congratulations on your admission. Getting to this moment is really a huge accomplishment, so congratulations. I'm happy to start with a little bit about me, and then we can talk about the law school and you and your future. I'm originally from New Jersey. I grew up and was educated on the East Coast. After law school, I clerked on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, and then I worked for a New York City law firm where I specialized in corporate law and exempt organizations, where I represented major nonprofit organizations. And then I was Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel of the Goldman Sachs Foundation, which is one of the 10 largest corporate foundations in the US. I loved my practice, working directly with the leaders of major public and private institutions and helping guide them and solve problems. But I also love working with students and helping shape the law through scholarship and research. And my areas of focus are nonprofit organizations and leadership. So that's a little bit about me, and happy to answer any questions about those, about that aspect when we get into Q&A. But let me say a little bit about the law school. I've visited and spent time at many law schools, and I have to tell you that this one is special. This one is unique. So what will you find here? The University of Minnesota is certainly one of the premier academic law schools in the country. It's a school with a global reputation that stands out as really one of the best and most respected law schools, particularly public law schools, as we've been in that small select group for well over a century. You'll specifically here, you'll find an exceptional engaged faculty. It's just loaded with academic stars, a collegial learning environment that's close-knit, that's personal, a broad and rigorous curriculum, talented and driven students, the kind of people that you want to spend time with and form relationships for life. And we also have a distinguished alumni network that you'd be proud to be a part of. and we're in a location that is thriving and accessible. So let me say a few words about a few of those things. Faculty, more specifically, at any academic institution, the faculty is the backbone, and our faculty is outstanding. They are thought leaders. They are highly sought after for their expertise. They're quoted in the media as experts on average more than 2 times a day. They are pioneering researchers, but they're also deeply committed teachers. So they're both researchers and scholars. About 45% of our full-time faculty have won a teaching award of some kind. So they're really deeply committed to the classroom as well. They're tapped on the shoulder to testify before Congress, to serve on major nonprofit boards and commissions, to spearhead high-profile national law reform projects, whether it be from corporate compliance to the Model Penal Code, to write amicus briefs, to consult with governments on discrete community problems, but also on worldwide global issues like protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms while countering terrorism. It's really, I know that you've gotten to meet some of them. This is the type of thing where I always wish you could meet them all, but they're really, really remarkable. And then once you get into the academic program, the curriculum, the classroom experience at Minnesota Law is so invigorating and life-changing. We embrace curricular innovation. We're continually evolving and responding to and creating new and exciting courses, whether you're interested in corporate law or human rights or immigration or health law or IP, criminal law, environmental law, right? I could go on and on. We have it, and we have expertise to help you launch your career and explore your interests and develop new interests. There's so many times I hear stories from students who came here thinking that they were interested in one thing, and they tell me that because of a class, because of a professor, because of a research opportunity, they've fallen in love with a new field, sometimes fields that they didn't even know existed before they came, and that's their career path, and that's always so exciting. And of course, we have our outstanding experiential programs, most notably our clinics, although it's certainly not the only part of our experiential learning, but it is considered the gold standard, and it's something that we're really proud of. And we have opportunities for students as early as their second year to get involved in clinics, which is not always the case in law schools. And in those clinics, you work on real cases alongside our expert clinical faculty. And we have more than 20 clinics, 20 topics covered through our clinics. So there's litigation-based clinics, there are transactional-based clinics on a wide range of issues. With respect to other students, our admissions process, of course, emphasizes outstanding academic preparation, right? But grades and LSAT scores, right? That's just the minimum that you need. We look beyond that. We look for people who are interesting, who have that spark, who have something in their background that says this person is going to make a difference to their organization or their community, who have the capacity to lead and to make a mark, to make a difference. And as a result, we have a culture here that is singular in the world of legal education. And we've cultivated an unparalleled learning environment that's characterized by both rigorous academics and a deep sense of camaraderie that I think is really terrific. Diversity is a core piece of who we are and what makes us great. A law school that has to bring together students from different backgrounds, men and women, underrepresented minorities, LGBTQ students, various socioeconomic backgrounds, veterans, students with families, international students. We all need to be in the mix together. When we do that, when we debate, when we advocate, when we discuss important issues, we all learn. We all learn how to frame issues better, and I think glean new insights from that experience. And we foster a community where people learn with and from one another. And I think that prepares our students extraordinarily well to be successful when they go out into organizations and communities in the future. And the last thing I'll mention is our location. I know that some of you are very familiar with the Twin Cities and some of you may not be. But if you come here, you are in for a treat. I say 3 years of city cool and adventure, right? Lots of parks, lots of theater, lakes, sports teams, restaurants. Now, unfortunately, probably this year, students haven't been able to take advantage of them quite as much as we all would have hoped. But I'm optimistic that by the time the fall rolls around, we will all be roaring back. There was a New York Times article about the Twin Cities that gushed and said, I quote, the Twin Cities has it all. And I think that that's really, really true. But for law students, it's a particularly great place to study law. And I would argue that this location can't be beat. So why do I say that? Well, the Twin Cities is, I call it a great laboratory for law. And by that I mean, we're filled with federal and state government offices, a state legislature, the 5th largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies, a really active bench and bar. And it's the perfect blend of affordability and opportunity. So it's big enough that it has all the advantages that, a mere college town, while they're really fun, they can't offer those things to law students. And some other schools may be in a state capital, but they don't have the meaningful industry, or they're in places that are so big that it's hard to maneuver, it's hard to get around those cities, or you can't take advantage of all of it. And I would argue that the Twin Cities is the perfect balance there. And we've got the results, I think, speak for themselves. Simply put, our employment opportunities and records are great. I think our degree can take you anywhere. Our students, recent graduates, are employed at large firms, small firms, major corporations, influential nonprofits in the Twin Cities and all around the country and the globe. For the past 3 years, more than 90% of our students have been employed in full-time, long-term, JD required, JD advantage positions. That's the gold star category. And we were ranked in the top 15 last year in order, when you ranked all law schools, by having the highest percentage in those gold star jobs. Our bar passage rate this fall was 98%, first time pass rate. So I'm gonna stop there, but I'll leave you with this. If you've been admitted, that means that we think that you have what it takes to make a difference. And our grads are partners in firms, they've started firms, they've become judges, ambassadors, they're in government agencies, they're working to free the innocent from prison. They are representing those who don't have a voice. They're doing all kinds of things in ways that are meaningful to them. And as I said, we think that you can do those as well because we've admitted you. So we're very excited about each and every one of you. So I hope that you got to know us. Because if you do that, I think you'll want to join us. So let's see. I see there are some questions in the chat. I was too busy speaking, so let me take a look at them. But also we'll take some live as well. So don't feel compelled to limit it to the chat. So how does the University of Minnesota Law prepare students that are interested in litigation and clerkships outside of Minnesota? Well, so there are two parts of that question. First, there's a preparation question, which of course applies to no matter where you want to pursue a clerkship. And we do that through our a really strong, well, first our, I guess, ground, we lay the ground with just our great academic program, but then more specifically, I think our writing program is particularly intensive and strong, which is a key piece of what you do as a clerk. So the clerk is when you, I assume most of you may know, but not everyone, is when you work for a judge for a year or two immediately after graduation. I think of it almost like a postdoc in law, is to have that opportunity. And so we have lots of opportunities through our great legal writing program, our moot courts, our journals, but then we also have a specific class, for example, in clerkship writing. So to prepare students who actually specifically want to clerk to do that. We have a counselor here who's focused on clerkship opportunities. So that's where the second part of the question comes in. We have a faculty committee that also works with students. So again, it's students who want to clerk here in the Twin Cities, but also who want to clerk in other places as well. So it's really just about student interest and what you want to do, and then we'll strategize with you to achieve whatever objective you have. And that could be a state court clerkship, that could be a federal clerkship, or some combination of both. Sometimes people will clerk, will do more than one clerkship. And so those can be obviously here in the Twin Cities, but they can also be elsewhere. We have alums who are judges, in lots of all over the place. Not to say that you have to clerk with an alum, but certainly we have those relationships there. Alums who are on the high court of various states, New York, North Dakota, off the top of my head, federal judges in lots of different places, including one relatively young alum who was just named a federal judge in Wisconsin. So lots of opportunities there.
I just wanted to tell folks if they'd like to ask a question live, you can use the raise hand function. There also are a lot of really great questions in the chat, and if we aren't able to get to all of them, you can certainly pose them again in the breakout sessions, and we'd be more than happy to speak on them. But Dean Jenkins, I wanted to highlight a question, actually two questions from Luke and Lindsay, because I think they kind of go together in terms of what changes you've overseen in the law school that make you proudest, but also the work to make the U an anti-racist institution. And I was wondering if you could specifically talk about your George Floyd's Minneapolis class that you taught this past semester.
Sure. Yeah, a lot there. Certainly, it's probably not a surprise that since almost a year ago, I think next week, things, there was a big focus on COVID, right? On how do we respond? How do we make sure that we're providing the programming for our students, keeping students on track, and really delivering a world-class education in the middle of a global pandemic? And how do we adapt, but yet make sure that we're helping students advance and staying true to our culture? And that's certainly something that I spent a lot of time on, and I'm really proud of how this entire community has come together and really continued to advance. And by that I mean our faculty who've had to learn new modes of teaching, our staff who's continued to support the work and moved processes and procedures in all kinds of ways, and working from home, and doing all of that while balancing family and all the other aspects of the pandemic. And then our students, of course, who've had to sacrifice in many ways, some of the in-person connections that just make things easier, right? It's not that, you know, we're doing things through Zoom, we're doing things in other ways. And I should mention 30% of our classes are in person. So it's not that there is no in-person activity, at least for the fall semester, fall and spring. Of course, last spring of 2020, that was not the case. But still a lot of creativity, resilience that I'm really proud of. And then, of course, you know, we're like so many other institutions, working really hard to look internally with respect to what we can do more to contribute to racial justice, and how we can make sure that we are doing what we can to be an anti-racist institution. So we've developed lots of things, including adding to, you know, speakers, discussions. We added classes, including a class that Molly referenced that I co-taught in the fall called George Floyd's Minneapolis. That was open to our upper level students, and we brought in a lot of guest speakers and talked, of course, some about what happened, but more so about the broader societal implications. And we talked about housing, we talked about education, and kind of open the aperture, if you will, a little bit to talk more broadly about those issues and the way law and lawyering could make a difference there. And that's ultimately what we do. I mean, we're part of higher education. So we have the power to convene, we have the power to do research and to educate, we have the power to engage with the community, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do and stay true to our mission. Now, we're also doing that at a time of limited resources, to be frank. So I wish that we could do it all, but you know, we're also, because of the pandemic, we have many institutions, particularly big state institutions like the U are under financial pressure. So it's going to take some time, and we try to be really strategic about what we can invest in, what changes we can make now. And there's some other changes that certainly we'll want to make, but we're going to have to wait or develop the resources to do that. But we're moving forward as best we can. Certainly, student diversity is another key priority. We've increased the diversity of the student body by 88% since I started as dean. You know, specific, that's all students, domestic students of color. Black students specifically have increased by 600%. So we're really working hard to make sure that we're helping the legal community, certainly here, because you know 2/3 of our students will stay in the Twin Cities, so that we're deeply connected to the Minnesota legal community, as any state law school would be, but we're thinking nationally as well, because we're a national law school, and how we can contribute there.
Great,
So
thank you for that.
Sure.
I wanted to highlight another question from the chat from Kimberly, asking about the portability of a Minnesota degree and the possibility of practicing law outside of the Twin Cities in other markets.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, with we always say with a Minnesota law degree, you can go anywhere. And that's true. You look at our alumni, you look at our graduates, and they've done just that. So outside of Minnesota, our largest markets are New York and DC, Chicago, California, and Wisconsin. You know, but you know, of course, we have alumni in all 50 states. We have alumni working abroad. So there are certainly opportunities, you know, to do that as well. You know, this is as I said, a Minnesota degree yeah, Minnesota Law School is a established, well-respected school, so you can really take your degree anywhere, and we have, you know, like I said, we have alumni who are ambassadors, literally taking it abroad to become the U.S. ambassador to Morocco, to a variety of others. I think we had an article in the magazine about 5 alums who have served as ambassador to Japan, and several. I don't think I can name all 5 off the top of my head, but it's a great example of literally the degree taking alums all over the world.
Thank you. And again, as I said, if anyone wants to ask a question live, you're more than welcome to use the raise hand function, and you can speak directly to Dean Jenkins. But I was wondering, I know you touched on this a little bit, but maybe if you'd like to expand on it more with Brendan's question about your short and long-term goals for the law school.
Well, you know, certainly our short-term goals are really focused on getting back into live classes, and really thinking about the fall. As you know, the watchword has been pivot for the past year, right? You make a plan and then you have to change that plan. You have to pivot, you know, new information, things are constantly changing. No month looks like the prior month, and we're in that situation now, particularly as we think about the fall. You know, what's the fall going to look like? What kind of planning do we need to do? And so, you know, we are optimistic. We are planning for largely in-person fall. You know, as we know, with the new 3rd vaccine and other reports, there's a lot of reason for optimism that over the summer, you know, vaccines will become widely available, and that will hopefully enable us to be back in the fall. But you know, but we still want to make sure that we're ready to pivot just in case, right? Because, you know, with variants and other things, you know, we can't make any promises, but we are optimistic about that. So certainly, we're spending a lot of time planning for that, making those transitions and adjustments. You know, I think that really we're thinking over the long term about how do we position the law school to continue to be leaders in legal education? How do we continue to prepare students to be the next generation of great lawyer leaders? And what do we need to do to our, you know, student body, our curriculum? You know, how do we strengthen our community engagement? What new clinics, relationships do we need to embark on? And there are certainly some projects in the works there, and you know, certainly new areas of faculty strength that we want to bring to the law school are certainly on the horizon. And hopefully we'll be in a situation where we'll be back to focusing on some of those issues, because those are really important to the future of the institution. How do we continue to raise new resources to support, you know, scholarships and fellowships, opportunities for our students to have summer jobs that can be paid, as opposed to just volunteer opportunity, particularly for those committed to public interest, are certainly among the many things high on my list. So I saw that there was a question from, it looks like Dominic, about the size of the class. So you know, our classes are each first-year class, typically somewhere between, I would say, 215 to 225 is, you know, roughly the numbers. Now, of course, there's some, the last year's class I think was 211, so a little bit under. I think there was one class a couple of years ago that was a little bit above that. It's the reality is this is an art, and we try to really make sure that we're building a diverse class and make offers, but roughly those are the numbers there. And class discussion is a huge piece of the curriculum. It's really one of the things about law school that's special, and this I think is going to be true at all law schools. The Socratic method you may have heard about, right? That give and take between the faculty and the professor and your fellow students, right? And one of the things, though, that I do think that makes this law school special and unique is the quality of discussion is so high, because not only do we have brilliant faculty, but your classmates, the other students that you're learning from, are also outstanding. And that lifts the game, that lifts the level of engagement for everyone. That really means that there's a spark, an energy in our classrooms that are really, really special. Let's see, there's a new question here. I'm just reading it. It's about public interest support. How does law school and how do our alumni who are interested in government and public interest, how do we support them? We have, I think, certainly one of the best public interest programs in the country, and certainly among public schools. I think you can argue that we have the best program. So what do we how do we do that? What do we support students? So first off, we have a dedicated counselor. Right now, her name is Ann Sexton. She's on maternity leave. She just had a baby. We're really excited. I just sent the pictures to the faculty and staff yesterday, but she'll be back in the summer. And she's outstanding. She worked in government before. She's one of our alums. And so she works with our students who are interested, but we have a range of programs, including our SAKES fellowship program is one of our really unique and innovative programs. And that allows students who want to apply, up to 8 students a year can be in the program. It's in your 3rd year, and you can work full time. Well, 30, I think it's 32 hours a week, so close to full time, with a nonprofit or government agency. You take 2 classes, one each semester, but that's essentially your 3rd year. So it's a much more experiential 3rd year, and you're guaranteed a job for 1 year immediately after graduation with the same entity. So that's a really exciting initiative. And so those are just examples of some of the things we do to support our students. Of course, there are student organizations, guest speakers, our clinical programs. One of the unique things about some of our programs, not all of them, but some of them are in connection with nonprofit organizations. So that also supports public interest. We have the Minnesota Justice Foundation here in the building, which connects students to pro bono opportunities. So we have a lot of programming, a lot of opportunities to do so. I was wondering if you could explain how, our BAS approach, are we specific bar related teaching? So no, I would say, we are, let's see, how can I say this politely? We are a national, top school. We're not teaching to the bar here. The way that I look at it is that, we're preparing you for lives of leadership and service. So that's not just about preparing students for an exam. We're preparing students for really how to think like a lawyer, how to be successful in your career that's going to last, 30, 40 years. And that's what our education is focused on. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that we don't provide resources to support students through the bar. And I think that that's part of our success. And so we have a great director of bar support that works with all students. We provide some programming and counseling and supplementary programming in addition to the bar review classes that that students take at all law schools. There are private companies essentially that offer bar support, but we also have someone here on staff so that you can go to and just talk over strategy, or she may say, I'm going to have 4 strategy sessions that are open to everyone, to help set people up, or I'll read your essays. Usually I think what she does is she says, I'll read your essays until I cut you off, meaning that when she says you're good to go, she says, okay, I'm not going to read any more from you. You just keep doing what you're doing, so that she can focus her energy on other students to make sure that everybody is lifted up. But it's a great strategy to make sure that everybody gets the advice that they need. And I love the story of one thing she told me. It was like, someone who was a great student, top of the class, read the essay, but they still needed some advice. And she said, it's great advice, but probably the bar exam is not the time to quote Nietzsche, right? Like, you don't need to do that. It's not a philosophy paper, like stick and just answer to the question, right? So everybody could use a little advice there, and we do that well. And I think that's it's that support that we provide that makes the difference there. Hey, I see Brandon has his hand up. Brandon, do you want to unmute and jump in?
Hi, Dean Jenkins. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
So my question was, as far as how is the law school dealt with, and also how is it dealt with, like with COVID-19, and I guess like how job fairs and stuff like that, where normally a lot of that is in person and trying to make sure that they're ready to get a job out of law school. How has that changed, or how has the law school adapted to that?
Sure. So, as you might imagine, a lot of that has moved online. So that's really been the pivot, but we've moved along, I gotta say, really, really well. So just in the fall, our counseling career center staff did 6,500 meetings with students, right? And so, you can know that we have, roughly 225 students in a class, right? There are 3 classes. That's still many meetings, many counseling sessions. So our staff are really available. And so that's the biggest thing. And one of the unique things that we do here is that everyone is assigned a counselor in your first year, and that counselor stays with you through your 3 years of law school. So they really get to know you. You really develop a partnership and can develop a targeted plan based on your interest. And we understand interests are going to evolve too, right? That's part of the process, as I mentioned before. But also, we have pivoted to our fairs online. And in some ways, Brandon, they've actually created more opportunities, right? You can imagine without having to travel. There's certain companies, certain nonprofits, even firms that, because of timing, they may have to limit if they're going to fly their staff out to interview someplace. You may say, well, we can only go to 5 law schools or something along those lines. Whereas now, if you're doing things on Zoom, right, there are opportunities to talk to more people, to see more. So in some ways, it's actually creating new and different opportunities for our students. And we're still doing our regional job fairs that we do. We have partnerships with, it's a group of 6 law schools, a consortium that we're part of. So there's a New York fair, a DC fair, et cetera. Those are still happening. We have funding to send, to help subsidize students. They don't, I can't say that they fully send, but they help underwrite some of the expenses associated with specialized fairs. So let's say you're interested in IP, you might want to go to the big national IP job fair, or there's an LGBT job fair, or et cetera, all kinds of specialty opportunities as well that our counselors are very familiar with and really, again, can strategize with students around those issues. So thanks, Brandon, for that question.
Well, thank you so much, Dean Jenkins, for taking the time to speak to all of the students, and I'm sure everyone would like to join me in saying thank you for taking the time and sharing your insights. Hopefully that answered some of folks' questions. If you still have questions, we'll be doing breakout rooms where it will be a little bit more informal, smaller group discussions. But Dean Jenkins, thank you again. I don't know if you have any last words you wanted to share before we pass it off to the professors for breakout rooms.
Well, I will let you all go. I'll just say thank you so much for coming, and best of luck. And we're really excited to see you here in the fall. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you, Dean. So we have Professor Matheson, who introduced himself at the beginning, at the top of the program, and we also are joined by Professor Ryder and Professor Lyons. If Professor Ryder and Professor Lyons would like to just give a brief introduction and a little bit of insight into the areas that you cover, you will then have the option to choose a breakout room with either Professor Matheson, Professor Ryder, or Professor Lyons, and there will also be 2 current students in that breakout room. So hopefully between the 3 of them, they can answer all of your questions. The breakout sessions will be about 20 minutes, and then you'll come back to the main room, and you can choose another breakout room to attend to get a diversity of experience. So Professor Lyons, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to get to be here and see you and kind of welcome you to the law school in this way. I'm Amanda Lyons. I'm class of 2009, so I graduated from the law school and made my way back. I've been at the Human Rights Center now for about 4 years. So I direct the center. So we're a research institute inside the law school, and we just have a wide array of projects and initiatives, working with our faculty on human rights projects and engaging with a lot of different students. I see some of our research assistants are on here today. So there's a lot of different ways that students interact with the center. We have paid research positions. We support the Human Rights Clinic. We support summer fellowships. We run a summer fellowship program where you can get funding to go out and do human rights work in the summer. So a ton of stuff. We're kind of a hub for human rights activities on the law school. And then I teach a seminar on poverty, inequality, and human rights. So I'm really glad to get to meet you all today and happy to chat more in the breakout room.
Great, thank you so much. And Professor Ryder, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Great to see all of you. I'm actually a classmate of Professor Lyons. We were in some classes together. We're both class of 09 from the law school. I'm going to proclaim that I will probably lose the popularity contest to either Professor Lyons or Professor Matheson, but I won't be offended by that in any way, shape, or form because they are both fantastic. I am the director of appellate advocacy, and I am also the co-director of law and practice, which doesn't mean a lot to you, so let me explain that to you. So appellate advocacy, I oversee all of our 2nd and 3rd year moot courts and competition teams. Those courses are really focused on sharpening and expanding your persuasive skills. So we really work on oral and written advocacy. I also have the pleasure of co-directing law and practice, which is we like to consider it one of the premier legal skills classes in the country. That's where, as a 1L, you get thrown into the fire. You get to do a deposition. You get to do a chambers conference with a real judge. You get to do a mediation. You get to do all the stuff that lawyers actually do, but you do it as a 1L. It's a lot of fun. Our students love it. And I am super excited to be part of that program, and I'm excited to be here today. So I am happy to answer any and all questions about law and practice, moot court, and anything else you want to know about the law school, because like Amanda, they can't get rid of me, and I'm apparently never leaving.
Perfect, thank you. And Professor Matheson, do you just want to remind folks again your subject areas?
Sure, I teach first year contracts and some of the upper level business courses. I run the Corporate Institute. We have a business law clinic, but I'm happy helping students in all areas, public interest, anything they're interested in getting done. That's my job.
Perfect, thank you. So now we will open the breakout rooms, and you can, the professors' names will be on the breakout rooms that they will be in, so you can feel free to choose which breakout room you'd like to be in first.